Hey, good afternoon. I'm Senator Craig Brandt. I'm joined today with a very special guest, Missi Currier from NMOGA. This is episode 23 of the Roundhouse Rundown, and we are really blessed to have Missi with us. Missi, thank you for joining us today. And NMOGA is the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association, and we're going to talk a little bit today about our state's vital oil and gas industry. And NMOGA represents a lot of the oil producers in the state. We kind of have two groups, and that's the NMOGA and then the independents. So tell us a little bit more about NMOGA and what they do, and let's talk about the industry.
Thank you, Senator. Very glad to be here today. We very much appreciate working with you and the caucus. We know what vital supporters all of you are for our industry, and we're very grateful and glad to be here with you today. As you mentioned, the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association does support over 200 member companies. We've actually been in existence for over 96 years. So very excited to get to celebrate our 96th birthday. And with the membership that we currently represent, we are very fortunate because we represent everybody from the big majors to the smaller mom and pops. NMOGA's greatest benefit is that we get to represent all sizes of companies. NMOGA's greatest challenge sometimes is that we represent all sizes of companies. No matter the size of the company, of course, they're important to our membership and vital to the state of New Mexico, but finding a balance that works for all of those companies is where I think that NMOGA really thrives, and we're proud to represent all of the different sizes of companies. Of course, we represent the producers that are part of our association, but we also work with lobbyists, lawyers, engineers, landmen, and others that are connected through industry, and of course, just supporters of oil and gas as a whole.
So besides producers, do you work with kind of the upchainers, the pipeline guys?
We do. We've got the downstream, the midstream, the upstream. We love all the streams, and we also love all the different types of energies. And finding ways for all the different types of energies and all the streams to work together is what we're really proud of. And it's cool to see how soup to nuts the industry really thrives throughout New Mexico, as well as finding ways to build on the opportunities that industry brings to the state, not only now, but for generations to come.
See, I still get some of the wording wrong because I'm so military. I use chain of command still. So, but it's stream, not chain.
Right? Yes, all the streams.
So you're the president and CEO of NMOGA, and I got to spend some time with you guys up in Farmington, which was really exciting, and seeing some of the streams.
Yes,
the stream people there, and that was a lot of fun. But what does oil and gas industry do for our state? Why is it such a vital industry in our state? What do they do for us?
And thank you for asking that. And I would like to preface, before I say everything that industry does, I was born and raised in New Mexico. I'm originally from Carlsbad. And so this job at NMOGA not only means a lot to me because I'm proud of the work we get to do on behalf and with industry, but also because, and even more so, I'm a proud New Mexican. I've gotten to see what this industry has done for the state, whether it comes from education improvements, healthcare improvements, roadway improvements. There's always ways that New Mexico, of course, can continue to improve. But without the oil and gas industry, it would be very difficult for those improvements to continue on. With that in mind, I think this is actually a really cool fact, but the first well was drilled on state land 100 years ago. We will be celebrating that anniversary in Artesia in mid-June this summer.
Wow.
The very first royalty check that was ever provided to the state of New Mexico from a well in Artesia was $124, which seems like smaller amount, but 100 years ago, $124 is a pretty good chunk of change. Now, 100 years later, the industry's contributions to the state is over $13.9 billion.
A year.
A year.
Wow.
And that only continues to rise. Of course, oil and gas does fluctuate with everything that's going on in the world, supply and demand, inflation. It is a commodity, so it does change. But we've been very fortunate to see really high prices, especially on the oil side in the last few years. It should be said that gas prices are not strong right now. They are incredibly low. And will that potentially affect how we move forward with budget numbers? Of course, and we certainly want that price to rebound for a multitude of reasons. But with that in mind, we've been very fortunate the last few years to see very high numbers.
Although I will say some of us as in consumers, sometimes we're not real happy with the oil price being so high.
That is fair.
We're happy with the gas price being so low, but
Yes.
it's it almost needs to be somewhere in the middle, so it's beneficial for the oil producers to provide that energy, so it keeps that energy price down, doesn't it?
Agreed. And that supply and demand conversation is something that's very important to us. I will say that the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association actually has nothing to do with setting the price of oil and gas. That's sometimes a misconception. I promise if we
We're not OPEC?
no, we are not OPEC. We do not have OPEC power. And so which is probably good for a lot of reasons. But unfortunately, we do not have anything with the price of oil and gas. But one thing that I can say on a positive note is that, as you know, we have two producing basins within the state of New Mexico, the San Juan Basin, which is both oil and gas, but primarily gas. And then the Permian Basin, which is in the southeastern corner of the state that also has oil and gas. We are the number two producing oil. We are the number two oil producer in the entire country. We're only behind Texas. And our rock in southeastern New Mexico is so prolific that if we continue to produce at the level that we are, there's a chance that we could actually surpass Texas in the future. The Permian with the San Juan with gas production, we're number 9 in the country for gas, which is numbers I think that we should all be very proud of and very grateful for. But even with that in mind, we produce in the Permian specifically some of the cleanest barrels of oil in the entire world. And that is something, whether no matter your political affiliation, energy should not be partisan. Environmental stewardship should not be partisan. It's something that we can all move ourselves forward on. But the fact that we can produce at such a high level and in such a clean way is something that's really cool. And one of the things I'm proud of about this industry.
Yeah, and one of the things I did say when we opened up is this is going to be an episode 1, probably about 4 episodes, and one of those we're going to hit on the environment side.
Cool, yeah,
and really talk about how things have changed,
yeah,
and they've changed massively in oil and gas production.
Absolutely.
To where I think it's pretty friendly to the environment compared to the way it used to be, and compared to some other things that people think are friendly for the environment.
Agreed. The carbon footprint that our oil and gas industry, specifically in New Mexico and the United States as a whole, is we are leading the way in finding ways to produce in a very environmentally friendly way, but still at a high level. I assure you, with some of the practices that folks like OPEC serving countries, Russia, they are not drilling at a level of cleanliness that we are. And the fact that we can still produce at very high levels, but also be very cognizant of our carbon footprint and the environment as a whole is a really cool balance for us.
Yeah, and I'll hit on a lot of those environmental issues, like, they always talk about climate change, but
Sure.
They really only focus on the United States.
Yeah.
We don't even talk about a lot of the other parts of the world where they're not clean at all, at one of these future ones. But so with the industry, how many jobs does it provide for people here in New Mexico?
That's actually one of our favorite statistics. And even though the oil and gas industry primarily operates in the northwest corner and the southeast corner, we provide over 100,000 indirect jobs throughout the state. Direct, it can vary, of course, depending on where the price is and the way that the market is fluctuating. But in the last count from the New Mexico Workforce Department, they talked about over 25,000 jobs that New Mexico is supporting through the oil and gas industry. Those are good, high quality, high paying jobs. And folks are getting to experience those jobs all the way from PhDs to folks that went to trade school, to folks that may or may not have graduated high school. There truly is something in our value chain for everybody. The oil and gas industry is incredibly good at research and development. And because of that, you can bring in so many sectors of the workforce that all get to work together to make the oil and gas industry work in New Mexico. So very grateful to get to work in an industry that continues to evolve and ensure that all levels of the value chain are taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, the jobs the direct jobs themselves are very good paying jobs.
Yes.
I mean, just driving a truck in the oil patch, you make what, 100,000 a year?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, there's so many folks. I think these are great success stories. For example, at the New Mexico Junior College, which is in Hobbs, they have a training facility that helps train truck drivers, welders, all sorts of, again, in the value chain of oil and gas.
Yeah.
Some of those welders can come out of school making six figures, and that's after a 6-week training program. Granted, that's not always the case because there is high demand in the Permian right now for skilled workers, but you can truly make a great living working in the oil field, where you can provide for not only yourself, but your entire family. The oil and gas industry has helped change generations of folks, and that's something that's really cool to be able to say.
And that program, is that at a junior college, or is that through Hobbs CTE program, that college technical education?
There's actually two programs there. The New Mexico Junior College, they have their program, but then CTEC, which is the Career Technical Education High School, is a very innovative high school that is leading the way in New Mexico on career tech. For those of you that may not have been to Hobbs, and if you have the opportunity to go and check out that high school, please do. It is not the high school that we went to, I promise you that. But it is an incredible opportunity. And they not only prepare folks to go into the oil and gas industry, but renewables. There's even some opportunities around culinary arts, all sorts of things. So it really prepares students that want to live and work in New Mexico, so that we have less of that brain drain where a lot of our students often leave the state. So we're very excited to work with CTEC. And one of the coolest parts of CTEC and the New Mexico Junior College is that all of their programs overlap. Not that they're doubling up on their efforts, but they ensure that their efforts are complementing each other. So if a student wants to go on to the junior college, they have the opportunity to do that. And I love that collaboration between the schools, and it's starting to make a difference in the Permian when folks enter into the workforce.
And as you know, I'm a huge CTE
yes
backer. And so the last time I was down in Hobbs, they weren't quite finished with the center yet. So one of these days, it's a long drive from here.
It is.
I need to sprout wings so I can just fly. But it's one of these days, I can't wait to actually see the inside of it actually finished now, and it's really exciting. And we're doing something very similar in Rio Rancho. Around the industries that the metro area needs. And so really on those, we're taking the industries and the careers that are needed in that local community or, in surrounding areas. And that's what we're focusing on. And that's what Hobbs has done. And it's just a great job there. And I know that the oil and gas industry was one of the third partners. There were three partners that went through that: the city, the school, and the oil and gas industry. And so thank you for being involved in that down there. I think it's really helpful for our students. Most people don't realize how few of our students actually go on to college, and this gives them that ability to go in, get a certificate, and have a great paying job.
Absolutely.
Which pulls me into the education, right? Tell me a little bit more, not just with the career technical that the oil and gas industry has been involved in, but what does the oil and gas industry mean to our education system overall, our K-12 and even our colleges? What would happen to our education system if oil and gas didn't exist?
So, I think that this is such an interesting conversation, because a lot of people say, well, oil and gas gives so much money to education in New Mexico, but we still don't have great education in New Mexico. As much improvement as our education system might need in New Mexico, could you imagine what our system would be if we didn't have the funding from oil and gas? And that's one of the things that we are working on to help folks to understand, is that the funding that oil and gas provides truly does help pay for teacher salaries. It helps for the school buses that drive kiddos to school. It helps pay for the facilities, not only just through K-12 and as well as pre-K, but also for our collegiate systems, whether it's a junior college like Southeast New Mexico College or New Mexico Junior College, but all the way up to our flagships, University of New Mexico, New Mexico Tech, New Mexico State. All of those schools in our state benefit from the work that the oil and gas industry is providing. That's something that, of course, all of us would love to see our education system continue to improve. And we appreciate very much, Senator, all the work that you do to make sure that that happens. But the money that's provided for our industry into our state's education system, I think is arguably one of the things that our industry is the most proud of, knowing that we're not only providing energy security and energy dependence, but also providing for the education of the state, not only now, but for the generations that came before us and the generations to come.
And a lot of that, part of it goes directly into the budget, goes directly into, almost half of our budget goes into education, but quite a bit of it goes into the permanent fund.
Absolutely.
From the extractive industries. And obviously oil and gas are our largest extractive industries. We have some mining and stuff like that, but really mostly it's oil and gas. And so that goes into that permanent fund that if we ever ran out of oil, which would be well past your and my lifetime.
Yes.
And, then that permanent fund would be able to, the whole idea of the permanent fund is to fund what the oil and gas industry used to fund if it no longer existed.
Absolutely.
If the industry ran out.
And I'm so grateful for the permanent fund, not even speaking from the perspective of my role at NMOGA, but speaking from a graduate of Carlsbad High School. Knowing when I graduated in 2004, my 20-year high school reunion is this year, which absolutely blows my mind. But with that in mind, when I graduated high school, we were in a little bit of a downturn in 2004, 2008, when I graduated college. And it's those types of funding that legislators put together, like the permanent fund, that help to ensure that even when the commodity is down, there's still opportunities for our students, which is a really cool way to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we try to do in the budget is, and have been much better about, is preparing for some of those ups and downs. Although we haven't really seen ups and downs, and it's been 8 to 10 years.
Knock on wood.
It's really been steady, and hopefully that's kind of the new norm. I'm hoping that there's a kind of a normal price for oil, and that we don't get too far above it and we don't get too far below it. But it's got to be profitable so that you continue drilling, because a lot of the income is not just from the price, but the production of. And if the production was to go down, even if the price went up, we would be in trouble.
Sure. Supply and demand is a very unique thing. And one thing that we have found, that as the global economy grows, of course, so does the demand for energies that are not only affordable, but are also reliable. We know that as the population continues to grow, the demand for energies is only going to continue to grow with it. Of course, we have the idea, and there's some really unfortunate wars going on right now, which increase the need for oil and gas. But at the same time, we still have countries that are not anywhere near where we're fortunate to live in America. I mean, for example, in Nigeria, there's some of their villages there that have no access to electricity whatsoever. They're still carrying water on their heads. They're still burning dung in their homes to provide the fire that they need. And I truly believe that our industry, as long as our industry continues to produce at a high and appropriate level, as long as we can find ways to get to those people to help improve their lives and do it in an environmentally friendly and solid and affordable way, is something that we can be really proud of as the world's demand continues to grow. Even on coming back closer to home, when we talk about the need for oil and gas at a much more technical level, as we talk more about artificial intelligence, one opportunity for New Mexico to diversify its economy is through data centers, which will help build on artificial intelligence. We won't be able to effectively run a data center without natural gas and without water that can cool those systems. We don't want to use fresh water to cool those systems, because we live in a desert and it's a very scarce and important part of where we live and how we live. Produced water is one way that we could look to cool those, that produced water has reached really efficient and clean standards. But also going back to the natural gas side, one of the reasons that natural gas is incredible, actually two of the reasons, I'm going to give you two of them. All right. The first one is natural gas is our cleanest burning hydrocarbon, which is awesome. And the second thing is gas you can literally turn off with a switch. So until we have better battery storage for renewables, which we're fans of renewables too, we like all energies, but until we have better battery storage for renewables, natural gas is absolutely necessary to say, we need this to ratchet up, we need this gas to ratchet down. Maybe gas is running more at nighttime when the wind's not blowing or the sun's not shining. Those types of opportunities, when we talk about an energy transition, we sometimes really like to consider a bit more of an energy expansion, because we know how important all of the energies are to us.
And I think that's you covered that next energy topic really.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's
Skipped
great.
ahead.
No, that's actually really good, because it all really plays together, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what we know is that the economies in the world that thrive are the economies that have inexpensive energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking mostly about electricity at this point, inexpensive electricity.
Sure.
And reliable electricity. If you don't have those two things, then the economy will not thrive.
100%.
The less expensive we can keep energy, the more that our economy will grow. And these data centers, what a lot of people don't understand, these AI centers, they take a lot of electricity.
A lot.
I mean, it's almost crazy. I kind of became familiar with that a little bit. I was trying to learn about crypto,
Sure.
which I never really, I still have, crypto is not my thing.
I don't understand it.
Yeah. But those crypto mining sites, they massive amounts of energy.
Yep.
And so we have a lot of people who will say they're environmentalists, but they're crypto miners. And it's like, it's hard to be both.
Absolutely.
But I actually don't think it is, because when you look at natural gas and how clean that we've made it, and you can look at even our coal plant in New Mexico is the cleanest coal plant in the world. And a lot of people don't like coal, but we need kind of an all the above for now, because the energy demand is growing so much. Now, personally, and I hope I don't offend the oil and gas industry too much with this, I'm a big fan of nuclear energy.
Yeah.
I think nuclear energy is absolutely the cleanest energy that we can get. France has done some amazing things with nuclear power with their modular units. And New Mexico could actually be on the leading edge of nuclear if we would just get over the fear of it.
Absolutely.
Which, remember, most of the nuclear accidents happened, well, before I was born, and that was a while ago. You talked about your 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm almost at my 40th. Just a couple of years from now, I'll be at my 40th anniversary, and I'm like going, there is no way.
Yeah, it blows my mind.
Yeah. But, those accidents happened before I was even born. So, we really need to get over this fear and really, adopt those energies that can be reliable, because I think that's the biggest problem with the big push on what everyone's calling clean energy, which, one of my big fights over the last 8 years has been, every time I've been on the energy committee and we're going around the state, and they'll give us a briefing on clean energy. And then I'll say, well, I really want a cradle to grave on every type of energy.
Sure.
I've been asking for that for 8 years. In fact, I even asked Congress, U.S. Congress, their energy, committee, I'd really like a breakdown, cradle to grave. They will not give it to me.
Yeah, it's cradle to grave is, it's an interesting curve of how the energies can work together. And I think that one misperception about energy as a whole is that it has to be just oil and gas, or it has to be just solar, just nuclear, just wind. The best part about these energies is that they want to play in the same sandbox. They want to be able to provide. I don't know why I just humanize these energies, but you get the idea that they're all happy to play together and work together for affordability and reliability. And as our technologies have continued to evolve, not just in the oil and gas industry, but technologies as a whole, that's what makes it such an incredible time to work in the energy space, knowing that without oil and gas, you couldn't build a wind turbine. Without oil and gas, you couldn't build a solar panel. It's those byproducts that our industries that help provide that make energy cleaner and more efficient as we continue to move forward. And watching all of those energies come together and be successful together is why that it's that's why we get to take hot showers that are mostly affordable. It's why in the summertime we have air conditioning. The more energies that we have on the grid, the less likely it is that folks like Excel and P&M and others will have to do rolling brownouts in the summer.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be hot.
Mm-mm.
And if we can find ways for those energies to continue to conserve and continue to work together, that's how we ensure that no matter where someone is on the socioeconomic ladder, that
Right.
they're not uncomfortable in a country like ours where no one should have to be uncomfortable.
No, that's right. And that's actually one of the things that I want to talk about in one of the next episodes coming up is really going to be talking about those other areas that the oil and gas industry is involved in, not
Sure.
just the energy. Because I think most of us understand the energy one, right?
Yeah.
I go to the gas station, I fill up my gas tank. That's really a byproduct of the oil and gas industry. And so we kind of understand how it's used to make energy. What we don't understand is how it's used to make everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And so even if you got rid of the oil and gas from energy, which by the way, you can't, I always bring up the Newsom amendment.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Right? Gavin Newsom did this amendment in California because they put this clean energy portfolio together and you got to get to like 100% in a ridiculous time. It'll never happen. And they realized they couldn't meet those benchmarks.
Sure.
So he ran a bill allowing natural gas to be considered clean energy.
Oh, wow.
And I agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. Natural gas is a clean energy. So there's one thing I agree with Gavin Newsom on. And so I call it the Newsom Amendment.
I love it.
And I try to run it every time they do something
Yeah.
stupid with energy in our state. Anytime they try to put any restrictions, I'm like, well, we should run the Gavin Newsom Amendment.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that? And then when I explain it, they're like, oh no. But yeah, I mean, it's the one thing he's been reasonable on because they put in this mandates that they cannot meet. And that's what we're going to start seeing with a lot of different things. But
absolutely.
Oil and gas, if you just look in this room or even just look at you and me, the clothes we wear, the makeup that I don't wear.
Yeah. I do.
The gel I put in my hair to keep it in place and make it all spiky and look like I'm back in the military. All of that is a byproduct of the oil and gas industry. We literally could not have an electric car without oil and gas.
No.
Because there would be no tires. There would be no seats to sit on.
No.
I mean, every component in that car, in some way or another, has oil and gas to thank for being that component.
Sure.
And I kind of humanized a component in the car too.
I don't know. We're on a trend now, but I like to think of oil and gas as my dear friend.
There you go. And it really is. I mean, without it, we could all live in a cave.
Yeah.
And is that good for the environment?
Yeah, I don't think it is good for the environment. And quite frankly, I don't think I would enjoy that.
Yeah, I'm kind of an outdoors guy, but I wouldn't either.
Well, I consider myself an outdoors girl, but it's more like I drink wine on the patio. That's really where
that's the outdoors.
That's the outdoors in me.
So I camp, but I've got a 35-foot RV.
Ah, yes.
So most people call it glamping.
I don't even go so far as glamping.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Missy, for joining us, and I look forward to continuing this series with other experts in the field.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about what this series hopefully will educate some people on what the oil and gas industry does, and we're really going to get into one to talk about how clean it is or not.
Yeah.
And that's one that I think everyone should listen in on because I think the oil and gas industry got a really bad rap.
Well, we appreciate again everything that you and your fellow caucus members do for us, and look forward to continuing to support you and find ways to move energy forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all your industry does for our state.
Thank you.
And really for our education system.
Thank you very much.